Why does it sucks to be a middle child? I am the middle of three, and for most of my life my parents acted like I came with the house. My older brother Damon was the smart one. My little sister Kayla was the baby, and the baby never stopped being the baby even after she turned 19. I was the one in between, and being in between meant being nothing. When Damon made honor roll, my parents took the whole family out to dinner. When I made honor roll the same year, my mom said that was nice and asked me to clear the table. When Kayla cried because she wanted something, she got it. When I cried, my dad told me to toughen up because the middle kid has to be the strong one. It was never a compliment. It was a job nobody asked if I wanted. They paid for Damon's car when he turned 16. When I turned 16, they told me the budget was tight and I could save up and buy my own, which I did, working 2 summers at a sandwich shop. The week after I finally bought it, they handed Kayla a brand new car with a bow on the hood. Being responsible was my punishment. My birthday is 3 days after Christmas, so every year I got one combined set of gifts while Damon and Kayla got full birthdays months apart. When I graduated, they took me to a chain restaurant and split one dessert 3 ways. And 2 years later, Kayla got a tent in the backyard and a caterer. When I asked my mom if she had kept anything of mine from childhood, she had to think about it. She came back with a single drawing from 2nd grade. One drawing. That was the archive of my childhood. The thing that really showed me where I stood happened when our grandmother passed. Grandma Ivory had always been kind to me, the one person who remembered which kid I was. She left a small amount of money to be split equally among the 3 of us in writing. Damon got his share straight away. Months went by and I never saw mine. When I asked my mom about it, she said they had used my portion for Kayla's tuition because family takes care of family. She said I would understand because I didn't need the money the way Kayla did. They took the one thing my grandmother left specifically for me and gave it to my sister, and they expected me to nod. So I did. Arguing got me labeled the difficult one, the ungrateful one, all at once. Instead, I quietly started building a life that had nothing to do with them. I moved 2 states away, got promoted, bought a small place, and not once did my parents ask how I was doing, because the strong one is assumed to be fine. The thing about raising one kid to need nobody is that one day they truly need nobody. Years passed. Damon lost his job and his marriage and moved back into my parents' house at 34. Kayla bounced from crisis to crisis, expecting my parents to fix each one, draining them dry. And one evening my mom finally called me crying, saying the family really needed me now. She said Damon couldn't help because he was going through too much. She said Kayla couldn't help because she had her own life. She said I was the strong one, and she needed the strong one to come home and take care of everything. I told her I would come for the weekend, just the weekend, but I wasn't going in blind this time. I pulled into the driveway after 4 hours and found not an emergency, but something worse. Damon was on the couch with a controller in his hands, eyes locked on a shooting game loud enough to shake the walls, and he didn't even look at me when I walked in. Through the back window, I could see Kayla on the porch, phone pressed to her ear, laughing, full on laughing, head back, not a care in the world. Alexei was in his recliner watching a game show, looking thinner than I remembered, but sitting up and breathing fine. There was no crisis zone. There was just a house full of people who didn't feel like doing anything, and a mother who had called me in tears to come fix it. Holland rushed at me from the hallway and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Thank God you're here," she said. "I can't do this alone anymore." I gently pulled back. "Where's the emergency?" I said. Holland waved her hand. "Damon's dealing with his own stuff. I can't put more on him. He was playing video games right now while his mother was crying at the front door." Kayla came in from the back porch with her phone in one hand and an iced coffee in the other. She smiled like everything had just been solved. "Oh good, you're here. Mom said you'd handle all this. Can you also look at my car? It's making a noise. No hello, no hug, just a work order." I felt the old roll clicking back into place around me like a harness, and then I stopped. I put the stack of bills down. I pulled out a chair at the table and sat down with my hands flat in front of me, and I just sat there. A minute later, Holland came in, looked at the bills untouched, and her face got this confused look, like a machine that had stopped working. "Aren't you going to start on those?" she asked. I looked at her and said, "We need to talk first." The change in her face was something I will never forget. The warmth left. Her jaw got tight. Her eyes got hard. She crossed her arms. "Talk about what?" she said. "Your father is sick and I need help." I kept my voice steady. "About why I'm the only one you called," I said. Holland looked away, then back, and said, "Because you're the only one I can count on." And there it was. The sentence I used to hold on to like a prize when I was a kid. It used to feel like being special. But sitting there at 30 years old, I finally heard it for what it really was. It wasn't love. It was a label she put on me so she never had to feel bad about what she took. And I was done wearing that name. The next morning, I woke before anyone else. I found Alexei at the counter trying to make coffee, his hands shaking so bad the spoon kept clinking against the edge of the mug. I walked over and took the filter from him gently, set it in place, scooped the grounds, and pressed the button. He stepped back and watched me, and when the machine started, he looked at me with an expression I had never seen from him before, something softer and sadder. "You came," he said. "Mom asked me to," I said. He nodded slowly. Then he said, so quietly I almost missed it. She shouldn't have had to ask. He started talking then, like a faucet long rusted shut finally turning loose. "Your brother hasn't paid a dime since he moved back. Not groceries, not the electric bill. Your sister calls every week to ask for money and your mother won't say no to them. He told me he had tried once, told Holland they couldn't keep doing this. Holland told him he was being hard on them. She said they weren't built like me. She said I was proof that tough love works. Like I was a science experiment that turned out okay, so the method was fine. Then I asked the thing I really came to ask. What about Grandma Ivory's money?" Alexei's face changed. He set his mug down slowly and looked at the table. "That was your mother's decision," he said. "But you knew," I said. He was quiet for a long time. "I knew," he finally said. "I told her it wasn't right. She said you would understand." "I didn't understand," I said. "I just stopped asking." He let the silence sit there, and that said more than any apology would have. He mentioned he needed his morning medication and couldn't find where Holland had reorganized it. I went to the hallway closet to look. I was moving aside folders and envelopes when my hand hit a cardboard box near the back, not labeled. I pulled it out and opened it, at first thinking it was just old paperwork, the kind of thing you shove in a box and forget. But then I saw an envelope I recognized from the lawyer who had handled Grandma Ivory's estate. Inside was a letter, handwritten, Ivory's handwriting, which I would know anywhere because she used to write me little notes on my real birthday cards, the ones she picked out about herself. The letter was addressed to all three of us. It said, "This money is for each of you equally, because I love each of you the same." I read it 3 times. There was no room for interpretation. Underneath the letter were bank statements. The deposits from the estate were there, the full amount, and then the withdrawals. One payment to Kayla's school labeled tuition. But there was a second one I didn't know about, a payment to a credit card company. And when I cross-referenced it with another paper in the box, it was Damon's card. Holland had used a portion of my inheritance to pay off Damon's maxed out balance. The split was never 3 ways. It wasn't even 2 ways. It was 0 for me. Everything Ivory left me went to Damon and Kayla, and the only record of it was sitting in a box at the back of a closet where nobody thought I would ever look. I waited for the anger to hit, but my hands were steady. My breathing was normal. I wasn't surprised. That was the saddest part. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of everything. The letter, every bank statement, the withdrawal records, all of it. Then I put every piece of paper back exactly as I found it, tucked the box into the back of the closet, and closed the door. I found the medication on the second shelf and brought it to Alexei. He took it with a small nod. About 20 minutes later, Holland came downstairs in her robe and smiled at me with that warm, easy smile, like everything between us was fine and had always been fine. I thought about the box in the closet, and the letter from a grandmother who loved me the same as the others, and the bank statements that proved my own mother didn't. "Fine," I said. Then I said, "We should all sit down together today." The 4 of us. When everyone had gathered, Damon was already slouched in his chair, arms crossed, and Kayla had barely dropped her purse before I said, "Sit down." She laughed. "Since when do you give orders?" Holland stood near the counter with her arms wrapped around herself. I started calm. "I came because Mom called me crying and told me the family needed me," I said. "She said nobody else could help." I turned to Damon and looked right at him. "What have you been doing to help since you moved back in?" His whole body tensed. "I'm going through a divorce," he said. "I lost everything." I didn't flinch. "You've been here 8 months," I said. "Mom is paying your food, your phone, your car insurance. Have you applied for a single job?" Damon turned and looked at Holland. This grown man, 34 years old, turning to his mother to save him from a question he didn't want to answer. And Holland stepped forward and said, "He's healing. Leave him alone." Then I turned to Kayla. "What about you?" I said. "I have my own bills," she said. "I can barely keep up with my rent." "The rent Mom and Dad help you pay," I said. "And the car they bought you." I paused. "And the tuition they paid with my inheritance." The room went so quiet I could hear the clock on the wall. Kayla's face changed. The color came up from her neck fast. "What are you talking about?" she said. Holland moved fast, hands flat on the table. "That is not what happened," she said. But I was already reaching for my phone. I had the photos ready. I opened the first picture and turned the screen toward the middle of the table. "This is a letter from Grandma Ivory," I said. It was in a box in the hallway closet, her handwriting, addressed to all 3 of us. I read the words out loud and my voice didn't shake. "This money is for each of you equally, because I love each of you the same." I let that sentence sit there in the room like something solid. Then I swiped through the bank statements. The withdrawals, the numbers, clear and simple, no way to twist them. "My share went to Kayla's school," I said. "Part of it went to Damon's credit card. None of it went to me. Not a single dollar of what Grandma left me ever made it to me." Holland landed on the one she knew best. "We were keeping the family together," she said. "That money went to people who needed it. Grandma didn't leave it to people who needed it," I said. "She left it to all 3 of us, equally." She wrote it down. "You decided I didn't count." Damon uncrossed his arms. "I didn't know about the credit card thing," he said quietly. Kayla was gripping her coffee with both hands. "I didn't ask them to use your money," she said. "Mom told me it was handled. I thought it came from their savings." Not an apology, just a redirect. Holland's voice came out tight and thin. "You are tearing this family apart over money," she said. I shook my head. "This was never about money," I said. "This is about the fact that you have never once treated me like I mattered as much as them." Before I could keep going, I heard slow, uneven footsteps on the hardwood from the living room, and then Alexei appeared in the doorway, one hand on the frame to steady himself, his face pale and drawn. Everyone turned. Damon sat up straight. Kayla's hands went still. Holland took a step toward him. Alexei looked around the room at all of us and said, "That's enough." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Holland moved toward him fast, her face switching gears so quickly it almost gave me whiplash, the defensiveness turning into something meant to look like concern. "See?" she said, looking directly at me. "You're upsetting your father. His heart can't take this." She was pulling the one lever she knew could stop me. I looked at my father and asked if he needed to sit down. Alexei walked slowly to the table and lowered himself into the chair at the end, one hand on the table for balance. He settled in, took a breath, and then looked at me, and he didn't look like a man about to collapse. He looked like a man tired of something much bigger than his body. "I'm fine," he said. And then he said the thing that changed the shape of everything. "I'm tired of pretending." Holland's head snapped toward him. "What are you talking about?" she said. Alexei turned to Holland and said, "She's right, about all of it." I have never seen my mother look the way she looked in that moment. Her whole body went stiff. Her voice came out like something squeezed through a crack. "You are not taking her side right now," she said, like a warning. Alexei didn't flinch. He looked at her and said, "There shouldn't be sides. That's the whole problem. Our daughter left and we didn't even notice until we needed something from her." The room was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming. Alexei turned to me and his voice was rough. "I should have said something a long time ago," he said. "I didn't. That's on me." I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break, not shatter, just crack, like a wall that had been up so long I forgot it was there, and a tiny sliver of light coming through. The silence lasted about 10 seconds before Damon pushed back from the table and held up both hands. "I think we all just need to cool down," he said. "Maybe come back to this later." Kayla jumped in right on cue, already reaching for her purse. "Yeah, another time, another time." The 2 words that had kept this family broken for as long as I could remember. Their code for never. "No," I said, firm and clear without raising my voice. "We are not pushing this to later. Later is how we got here. Later is why I haven't been home in years." I looked at Damon. "Sit back in your chair." I looked at Kayla. "Put your purse down." Neither moved for a second, and then they both settled, like kids who had just been told recess was canceled. Holland stood for another moment, and I watched something leave her body. The fight, the redirect, the instinct to smooth it over. It drained out of her like water from a cracked glass. She sat down slowly next to Alexei, and when she looked at me, the mask was gone. Not all the way, okay, but enough. What do you want me to say? She asked, her voice smaller than I had ever heard it. I want you to tell me why, I said. Not the excuses, not Kayla needed it or Damon was struggling. I've heard all of that my whole life. I want you to tell me why it was always me who got nothing, why I was the one you could skip. Holland stared at me, and for the first time she did not redirect. She did not tell me I was being ungrateful or dramatic. She just sat there, and I could see it on her face. She knew. She had always known. Then she started talking. I did my best, she said. 3 kids, 1 income for a while. I had to make choices. Damon was the firstborn, she said. Every milestone felt huge, and Kayla was so small. She needed constant attention, or she would just fall apart. Holland's voice got quieter. You were just easy, she said. You didn't cry. You didn't demand. You figured things out before I even had a chance to help. I thought that meant you were okay. I looked at my mother, this woman who had just told me to my face that the reason she forgot about me was because I made it easy to forget. And I said quietly, I wasn't okay. I just learned that crying didn't work for me. Holland flinched, just a tightening around her eyes, and she didn't say anything back. I looked at Kayla. The annoyance was gone. The boredom was gone. What was left was the beginning of understanding. The first crack in the wall where the light gets through. Her eyes were red, and she said, in a voice smaller than I was used to hearing, I really didn't know about the inheritance. Mom told me it was from savings. I swear I didn't know. I believed her. Kayla was a lot of things, but she wasn't a schemer. She was just someone who had been handed everything her whole life and never had a reason to ask where it came from. I believe you, I said. But you also never once asked if I was okay. Not once. Not when I was working to put myself through school. Not when I moved 2 states away alone. Not when holidays came and went and I wasn't there. You took and you never looked back. You got the car and the party and the tuition, and you never once turned around and said, hey, what about her? Kayla didn't say anything. She just sat there and I watched her eyes fill and spill over. 2 tears she didn't wipe away. She didn't redirect. She just let it land, and that told me she heard me. Then Damon spoke up, his voice stripped of the defensiveness. I knew things weren't fair, he said, looking at the space between his hands. I knew you got less. I just told myself you were handling it because you always handled everything. You never complained. You just kept going, and I told myself that meant it was fine. He paused. That sounds terrible saying it out loud. It does, I said, and I didn't soften it, because you watched me buy my own car the summer you drove the one Mom and Dad handed you, and you never said a word. Damon put his face in his hands. You're right, he said. I was selfish. I should have looked out for you. He pulled his hands away and his eyes were red, and he looked at me for the first time that whole conversation like he actually saw me, not as the sister who fixes things, but as the person he had let down. And then Holland started crying, and it wasn't the kind she had used on the phone, not the performance. This came from somewhere deeper, and it broke out of her in a way she clearly couldn't control. I kept telling myself you were fine, she said. Every time you figured something out on your own, it made me feel like I hadn't done anything wrong. She pressed both hands against her face, and when she pulled them away, her face was wet and wrecked. But I knew, she said, and her voice broke on the word. When you asked if I had kept anything from your childhood and all I could find was that one drawing, I knew exactly what I had done. There should have been folders, pictures, report cards, all the things I kept for Damon and Kayla, but there was nothing, just one drawing from 2nd grade. And I couldn't say it out loud because if I said it, then it was real. And if it was real, then I wasn't the mother I told myself I was. She looked at me, and her voice was barely a whisper. You deserved the same as them. You deserved more, because you were carrying weight no kid should carry, and I am so sorry. I felt the words land. 20-something years of being invisible, of being skipped and overlooked and forgotten. You can't undo that with one apology at a table on a Saturday morning. You can't give someone back the birthdays you half celebrated, the recitals you missed, the inheritance you took, the childhood you didn't bother to save. Those things are gone, and they stay gone. But something inside me that had been locked tight for a very long time loosened. Just a little. Just enough. Not forgiveness yet, but the beginning of something. I pushed my chair back and stood up, and every pair of eyes in that room followed me. I'm not coming home to be the strong one again, I said. My voice was steady, and I said it like a fact, not a request. I'm not paying the bills. I'm not managing Dad's care by myself while Damon sits on the couch and Kayla drives away. That version of me is done. If this family is going to survive, all 3 of us carry it equally. Me, Damon, and Kayla. The same. That's what Grandma wanted. That's what I want. I picked up my keys and held them in my hand and felt the weight of them. The keys to the car I bought myself, to the apartment I pay for myself, to the life I built with no help from anyone in that room. I love you, I said, but I am done being the kid you forgot. Nobody tried to stop me. I walked toward the front door, and as I passed Alexi's chair, he reached out and caught my hand. His grip was weak, his fingers thin and trembling, but he held on and squeezed once. It was firm. It was real. It said everything he had spent a lifetime not saying. I squeezed back, and then I let go. I got in my car and pulled out of the driveway without looking back. 15 minutes in my phone buzzed with a group text from Holland. Family meeting every Sunday. All 3 of you. No excuses. It was the first time my mother had included me the same as the others without me having to ask, without me having to fight for it. The same. Equal. Like Grandma Ivory always wanted. I set the phone down and watched the road ahead. The long stretch of highway back to my apartment, back to my job, back to the life I built with nothing but my own 2 hands, and the quiet belief that I was worth more than what they gave me. And for the first time, the silence in my car didn't feel like being forgotten. It just felt like peace.